One watching now. Would that be me?
Checklist.
Oh, hello. Mamahan Singh, how are you? Okay, whether learning a few strong words and using them in IELTS essay can help in achieving Band 7? No. Do you recommend a list of words that can be used at multiple places? Okay, how long ago was that? Mohammed? No, there is no magic list of words.
Oh, hello.
There I am.
Mamahan Singh, how
Caught
are
up.
you?
There are certain useful words that are useful in certain situations.
Do you recommend a
However,
list of words
I do find that there is too much
Okay,
emphasis on specific words, and if you know like 10 of them, and you try to fit them into places where they don't belong, it ends up actually hurting your score because it will reduce coherence. You see, there is a connection in word choice that goes beyond just a lexical resource.
Emphasis on
Lexical resources we think of, vocabulary. But if you use words incorrectly, that can affect coherence. Coherence, ability to be understood. It will and reduce. If I said to you now that my banana patch is running upon a western shore, lexical resources we think that's incoherent. I don't know what it means. What is this? If you use words incorrectly, but can affect. Yeah, good question. Coherence. Is there a magic list of words? Understood. No. However, and something I worked on a little bit now that a couple months ago, there are 5 running upon a western shore big topics in IELTS. That's incoherent. Where I don't know what it means. What is this? These topics come up again and again and again. But variations of them exist. You could probably know what they are if you've been doing IELTS for some time. These include modern technology and its effects upon people today. Everything's repeating itself. These topics come up again and again. Variation. Is that better? No. That should fix it. Oh. With a leg. With a lag, yes, with a leg, not a lag. Okay, let that clear up. I have to use the toilet. Be right back. Oh. Okay. I'm back. It's weird. Okay, so you were the neat thing about this format. Oh, I don't know. Ah, okay. Yeah. The cool thing about this format is that I can, instead of telling you about it, I can just show you. We'll come back to that later if you want. Yeah. Whoa! It thinks it's speaking in Burmese. English. No, not this page. The other page. I should be able to do that. No. Yeah. So about vocabulary, there's 5 or 6 categories that I would say are very common, and you should try to establish a very strong set of core words in these categories. And these categories include, I don't even know how to navigate my own page. How do I look for something? I think it was back in maybe it was May. No, April. Yeah. Phones and work lead to health problems and climate change. These are the 4 that I came up with. That oh yes, phones, modern technology, like cell phones. Work, that's another category that's common. Health and health problems and climate change. So these are the big 4 that I would suggest that you get a handle on a wide variety of topic-specific vocabulary. And in this blog, I just started something of, let's just make a list, A to Z, okay? Right? Know what I did? Oh no, I just made a, yeah, I gave 3 words for each category that you might not know, such as, nomophobia for technology, empower, health, BMI, health, glycemic, smog, habitat loss, snowball effect. Okay, and then talked about this with somebody, and eventually, yeah, so that's the idea. There's some comments were that, well, don't forget education. That's another one of the key categories that is always found in various task 2s. And childhood development, growing and raising children, family, another one that you should get a list of. There's a bunch of words I can say you should avoid because they're never used right. Plethora. Yeah. Plethora. It sounds like you're getting sick. Plethora. Myriad is another one I don't like. Oh, okay. So one of the reasons I came on was to go tonight's presentation. I'll skip the boring early parts, and we can just go straight to the good parts, which begin here, right? Yeah. Okay. If you're academic, or if you're not an if you're a general training person, well, sorry. All right, if you look at band 6, 7, 8, and 9 for task achievement in task 1, what do you see? Right? Quite obviously, throughout, in every band, you have requirements of the task. Paint. Oh, I can draw on that. I don't want that. I want requirements of the task. Requirements. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Oh, general training. Okay. Right. Okay. Hey, what happened here? Which side am I on? Oh, it's over here. Oh, I turned it. That's my private life over there. Okay. So, regardless of what term do you find? Requirements of the task. Mentioned again and again. Well, what are these requirements of the task? Huh? Well, they can be found in the question itself. You see, every task 1 on the academic side has these words. Okay. So, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Well, these requirements of the task that they're talking about are found right here. Right here. No, over there. Over there. And they are the 4 verbs that you find in the description itself. Summarize. What does that mean? Well, summarize, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is to express the most important facts or ideas about something or someone in a short and clear form. Short, that's importance. Summarize. The next verb on the list here you see is selecting, right? They say it's just a language test. Well, maybe in the general training it is. In the academic side, I think there's something to the fact that they want to test your ability to analyze information. Not just ideas, but numbers and symbols. Certainly there's analysis that goes on in task 2. Same thing in task 1. It's not just a language test. There's more to it. Okay? It's, yeah. You have to, and then report the main features. Now that happens in the body paragraphs, and we're looking at the overview. And then make comparisons where relevant. Now the word relevant here is important because relevant means what we're talking about now. And that would be, in task 1, the most important information. Summarize, report, select. Okay, overview. That's the most important feature, la la la. I went through all of this many times. Pizza graph. I don't want to get them going. I'm just going to skip the pizza graph here. Land degradation. The super fast presentation. There's the cafe. And hello. Yes, task 1. Chicken, cheese, pizza. What the hell's going on here?
Overall, it can be seen that worldwide, the 3 main causes of degradation of farmland, overgrazing, deforestation and too much cultivation, are somewhat equal in effect. By contrast, when looked at regionally, they vary tremendously in their relative proportions as well as their total acreage degraded.
Each impact the areas, each area is impacted by a different cause primarily. I mean, there's the biggest cause differently. So here things are the same, here things are different, and so that allows you to make comparisons not just inside of one of the graphs, but between the graphs. Uber comparison. So here's the overview about satisfying the requirements of task 1, academic. Overall, you need to identify the features that allow you to present as much information as possible using the fewest words. And you do this in the overview, which also organizes the descriptive paragraphs that follow. Why am I not? Ah. Oops. Oh. No. Selecting the most important information is one of the requirements. Let your eyes work before your brain, right? Don't start thinking about numbers and thinking about what number is the highest or lowest until your eyes have absorbed the information. Tonight at my seminar, I said, what do you see when you see this pizza? And the guy said, the piece of chicken pizza is the biggest. And I'm like, no, you can't see that. You can't see that. You only know that because you've done this before. You can't see that overgrazing is the biggest form of, anyway, I'm not going to argue it. So, maps are excellent for letting your eyes do the thinking. I'm not dressed very well. All right, so take a look at this. It's famous Chorleywood, right? When you look at it, what's the first thing that you notice? If this was your hometown, what would you say about it? Yeah? Well, we got two parts of town here. What are the two parts of town? 3 watching. 2 others. And who else is here? Mohammed. I'm sorry. Manmohan. Excuse me. I was calling you Mohammed. I'm going to take in general training, but what do you know here? 2. You want to divide this thing into 2. Would you do it north, south? No. Do it. There's quite distinctly 2 parts of town. You got this part of town. When was it built? From 1868 up to 1970. This is the old Chorleywood. And then you got new Chorleywood over here. That should be apparent. And your eyes tell you that. That's how you divide it in 2. Yeah? How did it grow? You know. It helps that I drew the arrows, but it grew downwards? No. It grew to the left and right? No. Don't want to say that. They don't go up and down and left and right. It grew southwards and then east and west. Now, why did it do that? Well, what did they build in 1909? They built this thing right here, the railway. So, after that, what about New Charlottetown, New Chorleywood? Yeah, that was built along there. So, 2 ways you can put this in your overview. You could say, overall, it can be seen that the village first grew in the west along the main north-south road and an east-west railway line. The eastern part of town is newer and developed along a motorway. So what you're doing is you're using comparatives, newer, which is what they ask you to do. Anybody mind if I smoke? Now, here's a little bit higher level vocabulary. Talked about that. From the districts portrayed on the map, I can't believe I wrote that, it can be clearly seen that Chorleywood's expansion was shaped by the building of transportation infrastructure. Yeah. That the direction it grew was shaped by nice vocabulary like transportation infrastructure. Look at ways to combine data together, like trends, times, categories. It's best to try to find two groups if possible. This helps in organizing the body paragraphs. Now this one, our dear leader at the Tips and Tricks, Raphael, and I have a disagreement about. Well, not disagreement. There's those who say that you can't include anything that's not on the map. Well, certainly, or on the charts. Well, certainly you don't want to include any opinions. But when dividing this into two, this makes it a little bit easier. Yes, let's take time to observe. Yeah, here, what do you notice? The colors make it a lot easier to see than the black and white. If you wanted to divide this into two groups, pretty simple, right? You got these two that look the same. Yeah? Lots of orange. Lots of orange. Here, lots of blue. So you want to combine these into categories. Europe, North America. South America, Africa, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. Note, East Asia, Japan, Korea. It's not on this it's not on here. I wonder what their water use. But anyway, point being is that here you can divide into Europe, North America. The Northern Hemisphere countries? No. Central Asia, certainly Northern Hemisphere. Of course, economically developed. And this is where the disagreement lies, is whether or not you can say this. Overall, it can be seen that the consumption of water is connected to the level of economic development. In richer regions like Europe and North America, industry is the main consumer of water, whereas in the developing world, it is agriculture. Okay? That's someone, oh no, you can't say, and there's nothing there that says economics. Yeah, but we know North America, at least Canada and US, are economically developed. Europe, entirely. Now this one's tough. I'd be impressed if you could get this one. If we look here, what do we see? All right, okay. This shows the reason why adults return to education. Reasons. First chart shows why. The pie chart shows how people think the cost of adult education should be shared. This is the old style of task 1 with this information here instead of the 4 commands. Right? I've seen this answered on the tips and tricks page many times, and you always see something like, well, usually, interest in the subject was the main reason people wanted to go back to school. To meet people was the lowest reason. How does that help you divide it into 2? Okay. Well, think about what these categories have in common, and it should be pretty plain. Is there a time involved? No. So there can't be any trends. Is there big dramatic differences? No. Well, these two, you could clump these together and say it's a category. Interest and gain qualifications. Those don't have anything to do with each other. However, gain qualifications, helpful for current job. Improve your prospects for promotion. Able to change jobs. All of those have to do with what? Well, anyway, let's look at how not to do it.
It can be stated that adults prefer to study in most cases as they have interest on the subject or course, whereas they merely impulsed by the interest.
That's not a good way to do it. Instead,
interest in meeting people to start that course.
Another interesting thing about this chart, do the numbers add up to 100%? No, far more. People could choose more than one answer. So, qualifications, current job, promotion. These are all what? Interest, enjoyment, being able to change work. These are all, well, qualifications, current job, jobs, yeah. Now, one common way to look at human motivation is to categorize it into two forms. Motivation that comes from outside of you. You must do a motivation that comes from inside of you. Intrinsic, extrinsic. Now, if you know that vocabulary, you're going to do well on your LR. Interest, enjoyment, flexibility, so these are all come from inside. So if we take the numbers for enjoyment, meeting people, flexibility, and interest, and you add them all together, it's about 120. You take the other group, add it together, it's about 121. They're the same. These are all from outside. So a good basic Band 7 type overview would look like this.
Overall, individual interest in the subject was the greatest single motivator, with outside interests like improving employment prospects at one's current job or obtaining professional qualifications combined to be more significant.
And
overall, adults return to education for intrinsic and extrinsic reasons in relatively equal proportions, yet a majority of them looked for costs to be paid by someone other than the returning student.
What was that last bit? What's this? Yet a majority of them look for costs to be paid by someone other than the returning student. Okay, so students return for reasons that are fairly balanced. Half of them for outside reasons, half of them for inside reasons. But, we look at this chart. Who pays? Who pays for education? The individual. Taxpayer, not the individual. Employer, not the individual. Those are somebody else. So the majority, we're looking for somebody else to pay it. That's comparing not just within a graph, but between them. Here's the standard, everyone knows this. This is the way to structure your task 1. Paraphrase what the graphic depicts, your overview. First body paragraph, you talk about in more detail what you mentioned in the first part of your overview. Same thing with the second part. You can also include any relevant features that are not covered in the overview in that second paragraph. So we skipped this about the pizza, the land degradation, but there are 2 information graphics, I wrote that, which present data on the degradation of farmland. Note, I use this structure, I recommend it, there is, followed by which, or that. Why? Because this is a complex sentence. It's using a relative clause. And so 150 words, it's not a lot of sentences. It's like 8 or 10. I have checked off one of the types of complex sentences, and you need to use a variety of them with the very first sentence. A relative clause. Pie graph, main reason behind the degradation globally, while the table breaks down data from the 1990s from 3 different parts of the world. Overview, here we talk about the first graphic, here we talk about the second, and then we bring in the fact that Europe suffered the greatest proportion of land degradation overall. I'm tired. 3 watching. Well, I think this could be a regular thing. Should set it up. I can do like, you could send me your, oh, I know what I wanted to do. Oh, what? Mer. Pay close attention to when things happen. Look for ways to show off your grammar. Sometimes you can't. Like, for example, in a process diagram, that's always true. So a process diagram, you're only going to use the present tense. but you can use passive voice. You can always make mistakes. Here's one. This is one from today. Bumi Bahasa, which means mother language, mother tongue, I think, in Indonesian, sent this to me. And when did it happen? Well, it's all 1985 to 2015. So most of all, you're going to be looking at past tenses, not present. But for our overview, we would say something like, overall, transportation became more motorized over the time period, with people spending somewhat less time on the road. Okay, here I have became past tense with spending a participle clause. What do I mean here? If you look, what's happening to the mechanized form of transportation? You got public transport and other private transport slowly growing over the period, whereas walking and bicycles go down. That's the first part of my overview. Second part, the time people spent, right? Time is the bars. Although it went up, the overall trend is slightly downward. We'll get to the details later. But here's the thing. If you use the correct words, like by 2005, distances had increased to peak at just over 7,200 miles. So here's 2005. When did it increase? It increased before 2005. So you use the past perfect to describe things that happened before other things in the past. Careful with this one. Note the y-axis. Okay? It has been manipulated to make it look like more than it is. This is a common statistics lie that people do. And one view. What? What's the lie? The lie is that if you look at time, my God, it rose dramatically. People took a lot more time to get where they were going from 1995 to 2005. It's huge. But relatively speaking, it went from just over 6,700 to just over 7,100. A difference of about 7%. So if this graphic was set to 0, you wouldn't even notice it. They won't do this to you in the IELTS test, I don't think. They won't try to trick you with a doctored axis. But this does happen in life. How about this one? Did a couple videos on this recently. I gave out a questionnaire in the at that point in the classroom, and then it was practice. Then I had them, and oh God, it was a failure. 6 people. And I was like, okay, give me an overview for this. This is from Cambridge 12 or 11, and it's got to be the easiest task 1 in the books. You got a table with 2 data points, and then you got 2 pie graphs where the trend is quite obvious. Okay, and yeah, blue is very happy, green is happy. What happens? Hey, blue happy, green happy. Way more people happy. Now the trick here is that if you say that the refurbishment increased the satisfaction for visitors at the museum, that would be a logical deduction for the managers of the museum to make. However, it is not shown on the graph. It is not. Logical deductions are incorrect, are not to be put on here. Note that these are very easily combinable. Before the refurbishment, 45% of the visitors were happy with their visit. This jumped to 75% afterwards. Dissatisfied people fell from 15 to 10%. Again, combine the categories. And and also there was an increase in the number of people. Overall, the visitors were happier with the experience in the 12 months following than they were. Their numbers also grew significantly. This one's tough. What do we got here? Hours per week teenagers spend doing certain activities in Chester. Who's Chester? Over a 5-year span. Oh my. Look at all those data points. Well, how can you clump these together? Doing homework, doing sport, bowling. They all end in ing. What do these do for you? Homework, sport, and bowling. As opposed to going to pubs, watching TV, doing homework. Shopping, watching DVDs. Well, first of all, these, you add up all these together, and they're a lot more than these. Now, there's another theory that exists in the world called the productive leisure versus casual leisure. That some things people do for leisure, like what I'm doing now, this is my leisure, is productive. It helps people. It has a purpose, either for the community or for themselves, such as doing homework or doing sport. Some things are casual leisure. They don't have any particular benefit. They're just a way to have fun and waste time. And that's what we see here. Overall, the period saw teens spending significantly more hours on casual, non-productive leisure like watching TVs and DVDs than on productive activities like sport and homework. Oh, this one's too small, and this was a good one. 2 surveys of people living in a particular city, and they were talking about different aspects of it and whether or not they rated it good, neutral, or bad. In 1980, good 72, neither good nor bad 23, bad 5. Here, the number for good went up, but the number for bad went up. Aha! There's a trend. Is the case here? Number went good up, down, no, down, up, down, up. William, so you can say overall the people were becoming more polarized in their opinions, okay, with 6 aspects of them. Several categories seeing gains in both good and bad responses. There was overall a somewhat greater shift in thought towards the negative. And this is what I finished with. Do an overview of your home country, of the map of your country. Okay? Well, overall, if this was a graph, I'd say, okay, so we got mountains, and then we got this thing coming down on like a little tail. What's that? All right, so you'd say something like, overall, Myanmar is a diamond-shaped country with a narrow panhandle in the southeast stretching along an isthmus. Mountain ranges surround the country on 3 sides, while a high plateau occupies much of the east. The north-south valley of the country is split by a low range of hills. And that's a good way to end it with the group. So that's the presentation. There was a couple new ones. Would like to have had more. And to finish, then I'm going to go to bed. We're going to do one more. My annotations. No, discard them. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, this one. was black. Oh yeah. No, you're welcome. This one was sent to me by a user, and I said I'll take a look at it. So I'll do that to end. What do we see? Well, this shows an area of one UK town and 2 possible solutions. All right, so you got the past and the future. Summarize the information by selecting reporting the main features. Okay, so we got 3 areas. 2 rivers come together and areas affected by flooding. We have solution 1, relocation. Move the areas. Second, dams. Build dams. Don't have to move the areas. Each have the advantage and disadvantage. Overall, all right, I started with, there are 3 maps which show the effects of, or the area affected by the river, what's it called? Oh, the floodplain of a British confluence of rivers. 2 rivers come together. And designs for 2 suggested fixes. Overall, it can be seen that the 2 fixes involve moving 2 different things. The first fix, the first solution, would require the movement, the relocation, that says relocation on the chart, yeah, the movement of the affected areas of human habitation, whereas the second chart involves restricting water flow itself. Pretty straightforward. Okay. This was my first live chat. Thank you, Iswara and Manmohan. Signing off. How do I sign off?